Let's play the video.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My question is for. Okay, so my question is for Ustaz Mohammed Hijab. So a lot of your
No, go on. I didn't say pause.
Exposing the liberal agenda, from the West and so on, and how it's creeping into families and destroying cultures. And in Nigeria, I think it's still at an earlier stage as it might be in the West, maybe like the UK or the US. So what do you think we should start to do now in Nigeria, whereby it hasn't reached a stage whereby it's irreversible? What can we do to nip it in the bud so it doesn't, infiltrate our culture and our religion here in Nigeria? So what do you think we can do? What steps do you think we can take in order to nip it in the bud?
Next questions.
How the hell is liberalism destroying families?
Because again, I think you sent me the book where he's coming up with these terms like new atheism, new liberalism, or and he's using like 1700s definitions of liberal ideologies, and nobody follows those anymore.
Might I play the devil's advocate here? I am not in support of what he's saying here. I'm just saying that from certain perspectives, if you are a believing Muslim, you are going to believe that what liberalism proposes actually does undermine the family. And, liberalism has certain, axiomatic principles that are in direct confrontation with the worldview of Islam.
Yes. Especially with certain LGBTQ plus rights, women's rights. So there is definitely the conflict with because Hijab is one of the few guys, I'll give it to him. He did admit that based on purely the Quran, you can marry a 5-year-old too. So so his ideology is he's practically merged himself into Islam completely.
But is the question, I didn't quite get this. Is the question, how can we stop anything interfering with Islam?
Yeah.
How can we stop liberalism spreading in?
Yeah.
In
but it is essentially the same. It's the same question, isn't it? I mean, liberalism is essentially going to be anything that is outside of Islam.
I had the first question. There's another question again, talking about the hairstyle for a male Muslim. How does it go?
As for the first question about liberalism, before in the West, and when I say the West, I'm talking about England, France, Germany, and its extensions. In the West, the religions that used to be very popular was Christianity. Now, in the country in which I live.
Wait, I got a question. Isn't Christianity popular in Africa as well?
This shows. Sorry to interrupt. This shows how ignorant Hijab is. He's going to Nigeria, which was it's a country that is founded on English well, not founded, but obviously because of colonialism, has taken on English common law, and Christianity was also spread there from Europe. So to tell them about the religions of the country that used to, be controlled them, is assuming that his audience is so ignorant of their own history. So, it's just typical Hijab, I think.
I mean, the north of Nigeria has been traditionally Islamic and Muslim, and there has been a long history dating back to the Kanem Empire and the Efe, and in various sources they are described as being, strong Muslim kingdoms. I don't know that much about it since I've just read about them in
it's a mixture,
Arabic
source. I think it's roughly 50-50 in terms of Christian and Islamic.
But they do. But Islam does have a long history in Nigeria. It's not like Christianity.
For sure, no, it absolutely does. But I just think it's ironic that Hijab. I doubt Hijab actually even understands the basic background of Nigeria. Yet he's going to.
No, I don't think either, and I barely understand because I just know the very superficial. Because I've just read about it in sources where it has been mentioned, but I focused on other things.
Which is the UK, the majority of people are not Christian anymore. This is a very important point.
No, stop.
You will know that Christian.
That's not actually technically true, I don't think.
Still Christian in the Western countries so far. They're still Christian, so to speak.
Yeah, I think
Isn't
UK,
the main religion of the monarch also Christianity?
I thought they were talking about Africa.
We said the UK. He said the UK specifically is no longer majority Christians. It's certainly gone down, but I'm pretty sure the last UK census, it was still over half were Christian.
Christianity came into Nigeria through colonialism. When the missionaries came into Nigeria in the early 1900s, and they sometimes pushed the agenda of Christianity. It is ironic now
sometimes
that the white man came into the country, taught people Christianity, but now has left it himself. Do you see this point? The white man has left.
Stop it. So in fact, they were all Muslims, and then came this white man and tried to convert them to Christianity.
Yeah. If anything, he kind of forgets the fact that there was Islamic conquests of these regions too. So it's like, how did Islam come then? You're going to completely ignore that aspect too, Mr. Hijab?
But Mustafa, Islam came because it was a defensive war.
Oh, yeah, the defensive wars. Sure.
Yeah, they were defending themselves in Spain. They were defending themselves in...
They're defending themselves against Islam in Africa. Therefore, they are Muslims.
He also said the early 1900s. So he's about 200 years out when he's talking about the missionaries going over there. So again, brilliant historical background from Hijab.
Yeah, his history sucks. His history sucks. All right, let's continue with this man's talk.
40%, the census data in 2021 in the UK says 40%. The estimates are 40% of people will be Christian in the UK, which is the majority of people are not Christian. They are non-religious.
Well, first of all, he's saying the census data. Yeah, it is an estimate because we haven't actually had the census data. So he's a bit kind of premature by claiming it's definitely going to be that. But secondly, there are other religious groups in the country. It's not a mono-religious society.
The same thing can be said in other countries in Europe. Instead, in the West, now you have ideologies. You don't have religions as the main ideas now. You have ideologies. And the ideology of the West is called liberalism. It is the main ideology.
I got a question. Isn't anything an ideology?
Well, yeah, I
mean,
religion. Religions contain ideologies, but he's also wrong. He's acting as if there was, 30 years ago or something, there was no political ideologies. Everyone was just Christian in Europe, but now they've changed and they've got political ideologies. That's complete garbage. Religious people have a whole wide range of political ideology. So what he's saying,
but I think he names everything that is not Islam liberalism.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. That's what he does. It's a complete strawman. Under Hijab's definition, fascism would be a form of liberalism. I mean, this is how stupid his argument is.
It is, really, it is. It's so silly. He's desperate.
You also have to love how he racializes things and talks about the whites.
Yeah. He kind of thinks
when he talks about Christianity.
Yeah, it's like, oh, white man's religion, but then the Christian origins are from like the Middle East too. Like this is also Middle East.
Yeah, and white people make up the minority of Christians in the world. So to call it a white man's religion is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, apparently somebody claimed, I don't know what the basis for the numbers are. He said that there's 2 million Muslims leaving Islam every single year, and most of them are in Africa, and most of them are converting to Christianity. So there's a huge boost at the moment for Christianity across the African continent. Because they just want to get away from Islam. In the south of the equator, this is not the case. Their people are generally leaving religions behind. It's only for some odd reason north of the equator that people are more into religions. Where in the south, it's more shaman and family and traditions and less so the gods. So it's quite strange.
Well, maybe this is why hijab is there. He's trying to do some damage control.
Maybe that's why, exactly. Yeah, just trying to motivate people again
to join the fold of Islam. No, Nick, let's continue with this.
They need zakat payers.
Now it has replaced religion in the West. Liberalism basically states that we are the most important thing. And it says you can do whatever you want so long as you don't harm anybody else. That's what they say. So when we talk about homosexuality, a man having intercourse with another man and having a relationship with another man, or a woman having a relationship with...
Oh my god, if this guy's leading it to where I think he's leading it,
Wait,
it reminds you that you...
Where do you think he's leading it to?
That
I
you've
don't
done
know.
an
But
interview.
I've got to say that scanning shot of the audience just shows what they think of him. They all look so bored.
Yeah, I know. It's yeah.
I wonder if anybody's really listening, because I mean the way that he said it sounds like nirvana.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You could do what you want as long as you don't harm anybody else. I mean, that you can't get more perfect than that, can you?
Yeah, that's actually not that bad. It's like, as long as I'm not harming anybody else, sure, I'd love to live in a society like that.
I don't know if he realizes this. That he's
I'd love to know how many
describing
people
some-
left Islam after this talk, from the audience.
Yeah,
let's see.
I mean,
that's where he's going.
he's not making a very good argument for his case, really.
Absolutely.
All right, let's see what he's going to say about this.
another woman, they say this is okay, this is fine. And they say this is okay and this is fine because they are not harming anybody else. Don't get into their business, leave them alone. This is what they say. I have
Right, so what's the problem with that?
had discussions which you can find online with many of them and ask them questions. For example, I say to them, what do you say of a situation where a brother and a sister are in a relationship together? Brother and sister.
Oh my
So
goodness.
long as they don't harm anybody
Which for a
else.
start is not homosexuality, so what the fuck? He's just
Yeah.
We're talking about
completely
incest.
topic
And
now.
the
Now
funny
he's
thing is,
talking about-
incest is the basis of Islam. That's how the whole, I mean, according to Islam, that's how everything started. Because with Adam and Eve, you must have incest. With Noah, you must have incest. In the
We are
Quran, it
going to
propagates
talk about
incest. So
Eve
what-
and Adam.
Yeah. And Eve and Adam had kids who probably had sex with their
I mean,
brothers and sisters.
that's really more creation myth more than actually propagating incest. I don't think we should go that far.
But keep in mind,
I mean,
like,
sure,
No,
the
it
myth
is. Islam is
implies
based on
incest.
No, Islam actually propagates
But
incest.
yes, that's the myth. That's a creation myth. But I don't
No,
think it's
sorry.
really fair to say, oh, Islam is based on incest.
There's
That's
two
not,
things I'm saying.
fair.
There are two things I'm saying here.
All right.
The one thing I'm saying is that if you have a human being, the first human being Adam, and the first female human being Hawa, being Eve, then it follows by necessity that there is incest involved. It doesn't work any other way. So according to Islam, every human being is born a Muslim. So Islam is based on incest. The second thing that I'm saying is the Quran propagates incest because it says you are not allowed to marry your mother or your sister, but you are allowed to marry your cousin, which is incest. So this is what the Quran is propagating.
Cousin marriage is not on the level of marrying your sister or your mother. Still, Islam actually forbids that kind of incest, which is very damaging. I mean, yes, Islam has a lot of backwards things you could discuss, but I don't think it's fair to actually say that it's based on incest, considering that that's more of a creation myth about how humanity came to be. I mean, you couldn't come up with the excuse that was an exception that God allowed, because it's obvious that he doesn't allow it anymore, as there does exist, laws against closer incest.
You know, but cousin
Sure,
marriage
cousin-
is still incest, though. I mean,
repeated cousin marriages are troubling and can cause a lot of genetic damage, but cousin marriage is still not on the same level as closer incest, in the potential of causing direct damage on the first generation. It's when it accumulates over several generations it becomes very damaging.
I think it still raises the risk of genetic problems.
It does, but it's not that much the first time you do it. It's just that it becomes squared every time you do it for every generation.
They don't promote the kind of close incest that he's now using an example, but it does promote lesser forms of incest. Let's say that.
All right, let's
All right,
continue.
would you like me to play? Yeah.
Yes.
The brother can use condom or something. Sorry to be explicit. They say this is very bad, this is very wrong. I say, but this is what your principle says. You said you can do whatever you like so long as you don't harm anybody else. So homosexuality, the idea of a man being in a relationship with another man, is akin or the same or comparative to a brother being in a relationship with a sister. They don't want to accept the difference.
Excuse me. What did he just say? Homosexuality is having sex with your sister?
Yeah. So he basically equated homosexuality with incest. So he said they're practically the same thing. Whereas, it's I find it like a completely false equivalence.
It is. What's a dumbass?
Yeah,
I need to remember this for the future. This is an excellent quote for future reference. That he equates incest with homosexuality. I mean, that's crazy.
Like anything, is you show that rationally their new ideologies don't make sense. For example, now you have people.
No, you don't make sense.
That say they are men and they are actually born as women. They have an X chromosome, and they say they are men.
Oh
or
no!
Women, or men, or
is he gonna go to
XY chromosome.
Hang on. He's gonna now trash the trans community. Also, yes, Beach Price. Yes, he's correct. He sure loves to talk about sex. It's
but
weird.
also, but he's jumping from a relationship situation to now just talking about a trans person in isolation. I mean, what has one got to do with the other?
Genetic doesn't understand.
Yeah, it's not consistent because first he was in homosexuality, then he jumped to incest, and now he jumped to trans persons. And let's face it, like trans person or transgenderism was not a liberal ideology necessarily. It was accepted in older pagan ideologies too. So it's like been with humanity since the start. It's not a part of an ideology. It's just there.
But Mustafa, older pagan values were spawned to Satan.
Oh yes, older values.
Oh, but Beach Price just took the words out of my mouth. I was just going to say, what's the bet he's going to throw bestiality?
Yeah, is he going to throw bestiality next now?
Absolutely.
Are people aware of the hadith and all the sayings about having sex with animals?
Yeah, some of them. Yeah,
I think I'm aware of those.
I mean, like my favorite one is the one that you're not allowed to eat a sheep where you've just had sex with it, but you're allowed to sell it to other people so that they can eat it.
Oh boy.
That sounds like Bukhari.
Wow.
How did you guess?
Oh, it's always Bukhari when it's that man.
Bukhari.
Yeah, Bukhari's the best when it comes to the most explicit hadith.
With a penis, sorry to say, they say they are women. In fact, I heard there's somebody in Nigeria now called Bob Risky or something like that. I'm sure many of you know who I'm talking about. He's like this. Yeah, I've heard that. I mean, you can correct me if I'm.
He's probably seen it as well multiple times.
Is that the video where he's like, "Why are you gay?" Is that the one?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't been keeping up with Nigerian news. All right, carry on.
Now, this is something which doesn't make scientific sense. It doesn't make sense. They make the white man and the Western world makes fun of the Easterners. They say, look what these people are doing. They believe in mythologies. They believe in faulty gods and voodoo and all of this. But the white man now and the West, they believe in mythologies. What is a mythology? Something which is against the reality. Something which is a story, a narrative which is not true.
Says the guy who believes a dude flew to heaven on a winged donkey.
This racialization as well, where he's obviously using this language deliberately to try and stoke up kind of racial animus.
Yes.
But if you think about what he's saying, he's essentially saying that rational thought, scientific inquiry, that kind of thing, is the province of only white people. Like somebody from an African or an Asian or a Middle Eastern background can't apply rational thinking. They have to be a religious person.
Yeah, but
I mean, to me, that's insanely racist within itself. And also, this is a kind of guy who will turn around in 5 minutes and say, Islam is the non-racist religion, color doesn't matter. But then it's white man, this, for the rest of his talk. Yeah. I mean, such a hypocrite.
But he's been doing this all the time. This is his problem, because he's got a huge hang-up here, that he thinks that there's an inferiority in Islam, in Muslims, because of the deficit they have in technology and in science. And so he can't acknowledge it, and he can't admit that, there is a difference and there is a slope, and they need to play catch up. So what he's trying to insinuate here is that it's because of the color, and because they are racist, and because they've sort of oppressed the people in other countries, and this is the only reason why they are superior in technology. And this is the way that he deals with it. This is his escape hatch, because he can't face reality.
And so I would also add that Islam itself, like as an ideology, it's Arab supremacism.
Of course. But he will not recognize that.
It's Arab supremacism from the very get-go. Like, from everyday prayer you're reciting in Arabic, this God only speaks Arabic for some reason. And I think the fact that there are numerous scholars who've acknowledged the genetic superiority of the Arabic race, and there are hadiths about the Arabs too. So there is a great constant, And hello, Ishaq Ibrahim, welcome from Nigeria.
Can I apologize? Can I apologize to the person in the chat, the Nigerian person? I'm really sorry that my country sent you Mohammed Hijab. Is terrible. I apologize he was ever let into your country.
Yeah, and I also got to point out, this lady here in the black is, I think she's asleep, and the person next to her is about to go to sleep as well.
When a man says I'm a woman, or a woman says I'm a man, this is a form of myth, religion. So we need to teach our children that the Western people and the white man now has a new kind of mythology, and they want to force us to believe it, but in a different way. 100 years ago, they gave us no choice. They came into Africa and they pointed the guns at us. Simple as that. They had more guns. They pointed the guns at us.
Here.
Again, 100 years ago. What is this guy's fucking historical background? 100 years ago was 1922. He thinks that's when Europeans came into Africa.
Yeah, and look at what he's trying to do. He's like, they pointed their guns at us. So he's trying to make himself one of them.
Yeah,
it's so funny.
Like Muslims were not from the Middle East were not conquering African territory and spreading Islam. In the same thing hundreds of years beforehand.
And they said, we're coming to civilize you. That's what they said before. Now, they're not doing it that way, because they realize that's a very difficult way. So the way they are doing it is through Netflix, through YouTube, through movies, through series. And somebody watching something on
the new colonialism Netflix.
If anything, on Netflix, where I'm mostly watching non-white shows. What is this guy talking about?
Is that liberalism? Watching Netflix? Or what?
I don't know.
But
Well,
it's
considering
so,
this guy's
like,
got a YouTube channel as well, he said YouTube as well. So
YouTube
maybe he
as
should
well,
get on
yeah.
YouTube if it's a tool of colonialism. You know.
All right, let's continue.
And they're attracted to Western ideology. The reason why they're attracted to it is because they think the white man is always right. That's what they think. That's what people think. Whether they're Asian people or African people or Arab people, because the white man has the biggest guns and the cleanest streets and the tallest buildings, we think that they must be right in everything else.
Excuse me, the tallest buildings are in the Middle East. What the hell is he on about?
I was just thinking about that. I was just thinking about the Burj Khalifa.
Burj Al Khalifa.
I mean, not being funny as well, but it shows how ignorant he is in terms of Africa as well. He doesn't realize that China is massively expanding its influence in large tracts of Africa in terms of economic projects and all the rest of it. And they're having a huge influence. And from what I understand, I think that is actually concerning quite a lot of African people now, that kind of influence. And yet he's still pretending we're living in the 17th century with this kind of colonialism talk. It's just ironic.
And he also ignores
Probably the
fact
18th century, because during the 17th century, the Europeans had problems colonializing Africa due to malaria and a lot of other things.
And what he also forgets is that Islam has 55 colonies. You know, this is quite weird. He's always talking about colonization. And I confronted him with this. And I asked him, well, what do you say about that? And he says, well, this is not the same thing. I said, well, where's the difference?
Oh, it's never the same thing when Islam does it. It's always, you know, for the benefit of
Majdiyun. It's a glorious conquest.
Yeah. No, it wasn't even a conquest. They were invited in. You know, there was a street party for them.
I mean, the fact is that I don't like to moralize either Muslim history and their brutal conquest. I'm not going to say that it's good or bad, because I don't think it's good to constantly moralize about the past. And I have that standard also for the Western history and Middle Eastern history. Personally, I don't think it's good to moralize in either case. I'm not going to go around and say, oh, look at how bad the Arabs were that colonized North Africa and invaded Spain and made it Al-Andalus. No, I'm not going to do that. Or I'm definitely not going to be like certain Iranians that curse the Arabs due to their invasions over 1,000 years ago.
Yeah,
I do. I do, because he's just doing the same thing. If he's accusing me of creating colonies in different countries, then I'm saying, well, before you talk to me about that, look at yourself, and then let's compare that. Because he's
but I don't think
about the post-colonization period that we are living in, and this is why he's always claiming that the West still has a stronghold on the colonies, and he's always making this into a point, and that's why I'm confronting him with this, and I'm saying, well, no, you can't use that, and because he's using double standards, and this is what I'm pointing out.
Yes. But I don't think the solution is to go to and do a counter moralization. What I think is better is to just address it and say, sure, that happened, but this happened as well, and is it not better to
but I think
look at
it's not a solution. I didn't say it's a solution.
In the past,
I'm just
and that we can change history, but we can learn from it.
Sorry, I thought you were finished.
I think one of the problems is that Hijab is still for the idea of colonialism, even in today's world. He wants Islam to take over the whole world. Whereas you ask the average Westerner, no, they don't want that to happen. They can recognize that the history, we don't want to repeat that history. We want to move forward in a more peaceful way. Whereas for him, his solution is Islam takes over the world. So he is for colonialism. He just wants Muslims to be doing it. So he's a complete hypocrite.
Exactly.
But this is not true, because this is something which they have no evidence for. So we bring the matter back to an evidence discussion. We bring the matter back to an evidence, just like we did with Christianity. We showed them that Christianity is false. Now they agree with us. Most of them now in the West say, yes, we agree, Christianity is wrong.
Hang on a minute. So he's claiming what? That the kind of criticisms and the Enlightenment and everything like that kind of put the spotlight on Christianity was done by Muslims. Is this his claim now?
No, I think he's saying that Christianity is dying.
Yeah, but he's saying it's because the Muslims showed them that it was
Well,
wrong.
it's the insinuation, but he's not really saying it. He's just saying that people are agreeing that Christianity is wrong because Christianity is dying. I think this is what it's about.
Yeah, but it's nothing to do with Islam, though.
Well,
yeah, and it's also an ad
he'd like to be
populum
like
argument. It's an ad populum about the number of believers and the numbers of people that support something. It is not a proper logical argument. It's a fallacy.
Yeah.
Spin on?
So, yeah, I'll play it.
Now they are saying this. We're saying now you are wrong again. Just because you have tall buildings in your cities, which you only have because you took our wealth from our countries, Africa and Asia and these places, you only have those tall and clean buildings because of that. It doesn't mean you're right about morality. That's a false understanding.
I am going to stop here because, colonialism and the reasons as to why the West could conquer the Middle East has to do with, previous wealth. And, Europe was beginning to develop their own, strengths and military power and economies before they began to really colonize the rest of the world. Sure, they did extract wealth from their colonies, but it's important to notice that they were already beginning to get more powerful than the rest of the world before colonialism. And this is a very complicated issue.
But there's another issue as well. It doesn't matter how much wealth that you extract, unless you have the science and technology to use it, you're still not going to be building those tall buildings. The reason that it happened in terms of the technological leap forward is down to the scientific method being developed and all the technological advances made. Doesn't matter how much wealth you extract, without that knowledge, it doesn't mean anything. So it's way more complicated than it's making out.
Hi guys, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. Yeah, no, there was a brief internet disconnect, so I have to reconnect.
It's all right. We haven't moved on.
Yeah. So let me play
all
it
right.
and then we
So
can...
let's.
Yes. Scholars, his name was Carl Jung. He said something very interesting. He said that the West are technological giants and moral dwarfs. They have very limited morality. In some Western countries, you can have sex with a dog.
No, you can't.
Here we go with bestiality.
No, I finally he mentioned bestiality, and no, you can't do that.
Yeah, Beach Price, well done. You called it
exactly.
It's illegal. Literally, it's illegal.
Profit price.
Pull out the Canadian Criminal Code and debunk this moron.
Have intercourse with an animal, with a dog. Yes. I have debated professors in the West, and they said, yes, you can have sex with a dog. They agreed with that.
Oh, what professor has said that? What professor did he debate said, yes, you can have sex?
You would be surprised.
Oh, I was thinking
you would be surprised. No, I'm not talking about the Islamic. You would be surprised what you can find at certain universities.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
I'd like to know specifically what professor the Hijab spoke with, because this just sounds.
He's exaggerating here, but I will just tell you that he's not that far from the truth. Even though it's just propaganda from his side, it still has a little bit of a grain of truth, because there does exist some crazies out there.
Yeah, some fringe people, but again, it's this way of pretending it's some kind of mainstream opinion rather than either some weird thought experiment in a philosophy class or some fringe nutcase rather than the mainstream.
How is the dog going to tell you whether it wants to have sex with you or not?
Same way the child is.
I was about to say the same way as a 9-year-old does. Yeah.
And so they haven't got questions for these. They haven't got answers for these questions. Their morality is defunct. And we need to have self-respect and realize that we're upon the truth. We have to be...
Oh my God. This dude in the back is sleeping.
That audience seems to be getting smaller and smaller. Most of them have left, I think.
Yeah, but the 3 people sleeping, I mean, come on. That's why they're showing the women all the time, because the men have left, yeah.
confident with the truth of Islam. Their ideas keep changing. Our ideas have remained the same, actually. And so the first step is to...
Let's see what the
That's
first
not
step
an
is.
argument
Recognize the
for
problem.
religion.
Yeah.
That just says that you don't change your mind. It doesn't
Yeah,
say that you're
that's why you still had
truthful or
slavery
not.
into the 20th century in many Muslim-majority countries, because you didn't change your ideas.
There is a
20th century.
problem.
21st in certain. Mauritania and... No, not Mauritania, but Sudan.
Let me play and let's see what his step one is.
Have remained the same, actually. And so the first step is to recognize the problem. There is a problem where, because we've been colonized so many times before, we think whatever the white man says, it must be right. We have to accept this. Some people have this. Not everybody, but some people have this idea. The second thing is to realize that their ideas have been wrong before, and they've changed their mind before. Number three...
Wait, isn't that a good thing though? If they were wrong and they were provided evidence of the alternative or the correct thing, and they changed their mind, that's a good thing.
No,
It just
but
looks like a bad thing.
Nick, that's the bad thing. This is the good thing about Islam, right? Even when you're wrong,
Yeah.
you never change your mind, and therefore your society does really well because of it.
It's anti-Islam. There cannot be any change. You're not allowed to do anything. This is exactly
Even
the
when you're
fitna.
wrong, you're right. Yeah.
is then
Was it
to
bid'ah?
realize that let's bring it back to an evidence discussion. What they are saying is not in line with scientific or rational evidence. Therefore, we say, if we do this, if we start the process from now, then when they come in with their agendas, through education system or through this or through that, whatever it may be, we can already have the ability to
Yeah, that was the end of the video.
okay.
Oh, so that was
We
it.
can have the
We were just
ability.
we were just about to get like the final solution from. Sorry, I shouldn't use that word. The the final delivery of what the solution was going to be, and then it cuts out. That's really disappointing. I really wanted to know how hijab was going to save Nigeria.
Yeah.
And the world and the whole planet.